What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's great to be back. Today we're going to be doing a video where we rank the characters from Wilhelm Meister's Apprenticeship. Just an excellent video idea. So, just diving right in, the first character is the Doctor. So the Doctor's a good character. I don't remember anything about him at all. I know that, I'm just going to assume that the times when a character got injured and needed medical attention, that the Doctor was the Doctor each time. I'm guessing there wasn't different doctors because this character is named the Doctor, as far as I know. And look, I read the novel, but there were a lot of characters, okay? So I didn't keep track of all of them. So the Doctor, yeah. I don't have much to go off of, personality wise. As far as, how good a doctor was he, I think he helped. I think he helped one character when he was injured, and then another character who went mad, I think he helped him a bit, but then his madness was cured not by the doctor, but by something else. So then the third character the doctor looked after died. So I don't know. I think that about probably sums up what the medical profession, what their track record would be. Sometimes they help, sometimes the person gets better, but it's not the doctor that did it, and then sometimes they die. So I think that's realistic. I think the doctor did it probably the best that he could. D tier, I guess, for doctor, but that's not bad. That's average. You and I would probably be in D tier, So it's not that bad. Okay, Lothario. First of all, the name Lothario. Talk about the name of a character in a novel. I'd never meet somebody named Lothario, but I could see somebody in a novel with the name. Excuse me. Not to be confused with Lucario. Pokemon tier list. It's going to be another video. But yeah, so Lothario, he's a rich guy. We first hear about him through the lens of a character who is in love with him but also hates him. And then Wilhelm, he's the main character. He's the guy from the title. He gets mad at Lothario, and then Lothario turns out that he's the best guy ever. So right away, Wilhelm likes him, even though he wanted to punch him at first without having met him. So yeah, Lothario, I'd say he's got to be up there just because he makes people so happy just by being so I don't know, smart, I guess. I'm gonna be honest. I sort of forget what he did to earn that. I think he was just really calm and collected and probably handsome from what it sounds like. Everyone fell in love with him that was a woman, so he's probably a pretty good guy. Maybe, so yeah. So Lothario, probably A tier. Probably pretty good. Pretty good guy. Friedrich. I like Friedrich. He's kind of a fun character. He's got, he appears earlier in the novel, and then he appears right at the end. Sorry, my hand hit the desk. That's okay. And so he when he was first in the novel, I didn't resonate with him very much. Again, there was a lot of characters, a lot of moving parts. I didn't necessarily get a grasp on this Friedrich fella. But when he appears at the end, he's pretty much the most important person in the last 10 pages. So he seemed to have a sense of humor. I appreciate that. Friedrich, he can go also an A tier, maybe a step above Lothario, right? Cool guy, Friedrich. The Abbey. So the Abbey, to me, excuse me, he's kind of like the doctor. Sort of a priest fella, sort of recurs throughout the novel, and then every time there's a priest character, it turns out that it was just the Abbey. It's only one priest in Germany, apparently. So yeah, Abbey, I think a little more so than the doctor. He seemed to have some things to say. He seemed to be full of wisdom. Maybe the reason why people kept going to that priest is because he was wise, kind of a good guy. So yeah, I'm gonna say the Abbey deserves pretty good score, better than a doctor. maybe he gets to like C tier. Okay. The next character is Jarno or Yarno. I don't know how to pronounce that. Yarno's a really interesting character. I think that like the minute he's introduced, it's kind of evident that he's going to be an important character, because the narrator kind of takes a second. I forget what exactly was said, but something about how he's going to be like he's like a trickster, like you can't trust him. He's gonna like be like an evil noble person and take advantage of people, but that at the same time, yeah, it was I think maybe the Baron, like a different character who's like to Wilhelm, yeah, you can't trust this Yarno guy, Jarno, however you say his name. But then the narrator said that Wilhelm liked him, Yarno. So yeah, anyway, that was probably really confusing. Just basically, it's this balance of he seems like he's really, really untrustworthy, really conniving, really cunning, and like he laughs a lot, but he likes to laugh at other people's expense. So you don't really want to trust him. But then the novel ends, and he hasn't really done anything to screw anybody over, at least not that we hear about. So, yeah, I think there's a bit of like mystique or mysteriousness about his character. Excuse me. And so, yeah, I would say that Yarno is like high A tier. I might even go S tier with Yarno, even though I probably didn't explain very well why. Okay, so the next four characters are hard to distinguish, I think. So it's the Countess, the Count, the Baron, and the Baroness. So let's go through these. So there's a scene in a big noble castle, and they're all there, all four of them, I think. And so I don't remember who the Baron is, other than he's a Baron. So you know what? B tier for Baron. All right. Baroness, I remember the Baroness. She seemed to be a little bit of a lively person from what I remember, if I'm remembering that it was the Baroness correctly. Had an affair, I believe, with Jarno, if that's correct, how to say it. Baroness A tier. More interesting than the Baron. Okay, so the Count is the guy who's like into the arts, I think, and then he gets duped, or this is where I'm mixing them up because they're just called the Count and the Baron and etc. So I think that the Count is I'm gonna say C tier. He's lower because he was tricked by some antics by I think everyone except for him, who was trying to set up Wilhelm with his wife. And I don't know about him. He seemed to just get all weird after that. He thought he saw his, the man there in his chambers. He thought it was him, so he thought he was having a vision, and he was easily duped by Yarno. Yeah, so Yarno did dupe somebody. Okay. Yeah, so C tier for the Count. And it's not just because it starts with C. I know I did that with the Baron and the Doctor, but I don't know. I think there's something wrong with the Count. And then the Countess. Wilhelm, for like one chapter or one book, falls in love with her because she is pretty, I guess. But she doesn't really seem to do much else. She kind of just stands around and is a little conflicted sometimes, I think. Maybe isn't super happy in her marriage, maybe. And so she doesn't seem to be one of the main characters, sort of mostly only seen through Wilhelm's eyes. Not really a whole lot to write home about there. So Countess, maybe she and the Count can hang out together in the C tier. Okay, the Beautiful Soul. Yeah, I forget if this person has a name. Somebody's aunt who's just randomly the chapter for an entire book. The book is about her instead of Wilhelm. The Beautiful Soul, I mean, She got that epithet for a reason, right? Very very contemplative person from a young age, very concerned about the divine, very beautiful soul, right? Very beautiful person, right? And so I think that of all the characters in the book, because we spent a whole book of the book concerned with the beautiful soul, I think that she ends up having some of the, like, it's not a movie, but some of the most screen time, um, and she basically tells her whole life story. You start to feel for her. I will say that towards the end of her life story, or at least I think it was the end of her story, I don't know if she died after that, but towards the end of her section of the book, it sort of started to get a little muddled. Like, to me, it sort of seemed like she was just rambling and rambling. Like, she brought up one topic and it sort of felt like she was going to explore it. And then she did, but she went into like a subtopic of it. And then that led to another tangent, led to another tangent, led to another tangent. Maybe that was supposed to illustrate she's getting old or something. But yes, sort of lost me there a bit. Started talking about her nieces and nephews a lot, which is good. They were interesting. So yeah, like, I don't know if I was as impressed by the end of that, but okay, all jokes aside, I will say that, like, there were several passages of her contemplation that I felt were very beautiful, and at a point I was wondering, like, maybe it's just because I don't read a whole lot, but man, like, some of this seemed like this. Like, I didn't think Goethe believed in God. Is there some kind of like theological element to this novel? So it's very very interesting that in a story that's mostly about romance and theater and a bunch of seemingly frivolous stuff, that there's just an entire character that's like a saint or a nun, and it's not at her expense. There's not any. Just everyone agrees that she's beautiful. So I think for that reason, probably S tier. Okay, Therese. And in fact, I think it might be worth discussing Natalie and Therese together. So, two women. So Therese is like instantly introduced to Wilhelm, and she instantly decides, "Hey, we're friends now. Like, we have like immediately the same personality, so let's be friends." And she doesn't say let's be friends. She says let's share each other's entire life stories right now. And so she does that, and then you have to hear yet another person's life story, as if we didn't get enough of those in this book. It almost seems to me as if, before he meets Therese, Wilhelm was kind of hoping that Therese was going to be Natalie, who turns out to be the Amazon person who he was in love with, even though he only saw her once. And yeah, he was disappointed, I think, at first that it wasn't Natalie and it was Therese instead, but turns out that she was a cool person too. She was very sensible and I think maybe correct about being kind of like Wilhelm or whatever. But I think that because of the bias of the narrator, Natalie is held in higher respect than Therese, and Therese almost seems like in the story, seems like a slightly less wise or slightly less interesting version of Natalie. Obviously, that's probably more that I just, towards the end of the book, when these characters are really being introduced, I was a little bit just trying to finish the book. I was not paying close attention. But somewhere it says that Natalie is like the beautiful version of her aunt, the beautiful soul. So I think for that reason, like, maybe Natalie goes in S tier, just above her aunt. And then Therese, A tier, right? So yeah, that's a good one. Okay, orally. I think it's orally. Man, you feel bad for Orally. She's another of these characters who just sees Wilhelm and then just tells her life story. I've never met somebody that has done that to me, but maybe it happens in Germany or something.
All right, everybody. So this is just an editor's note. Actually, during the time between the initial recording of this video and my editing it now, I actually did meet somebody on the street who just kind of like randomly came up to me and told them certainly significant portions of their life story. It was pretty unprompted. I didn't know who they were. Basically, they came up to me. I was sitting on a bench and they basically just explained a few things that had happened to them recently. And then they gave a bit of context by talking about some of their family history and some of their current projects and goals. And then, rather politely, just kept walking. And so anyway, all that to say that, I guess it actually can happen.
Arlie is, I don't know, I think not quite as admirable as some of the other characters, but at the same time, very, very understandable. There's a moment where she's trying to get Wilhelm to swear that he'll be respectful to women or something, and he does, and to seal it, she has him seal it in blood. She has him she cuts his hand, to make him swear this oath. And I think that was one of the most memorable scenes for how crazy it was. It seemed really realistic. Everybody's reaction to it. Wilhelm was like, "What the hell? What did you just do?" And then she was she's like, "Shut up! Just pretend it didn't happen." And I thought that was really funny. I thought that was kind of almost admirable of her to just kind of embrace that. I guess she's heartbroken to the point of it killing her, and so she's kind of at a certain point just kind of embraces that. She doesn't really put up any pretenses. So sure, A tier for Arlie, and again, it's not just because that's her name. It starts with A. Anyway, okay, so the Harper. Oh man, so I just read this today, the part at the end where it reveals, his guy's whole life story. I don't know. I feel like, he wrote some good songs, but he seems to have been gone mad, and I don't know. I feel like I'm actually going to make the executive decision to neglect to opt out of placing Harper on the list. I think that so much it's hard to understand how many of the mistakes he made on purpose, because it doesn't go into very much detail about his own perspective, and how much of it was just the peculiarity of his upbringing and the whatever circumstances he just had to deal with. And then he's insane for most of the rest of it, and so can you blame him for almost killing a child? I mean, it was an accident or something, and then he tried not to do it a few times or something. So yeah, it's hard to, you kind of feel bad for the guy, and then he made good songs and everything. So yeah, it's really hard to assess, who am I to be the judge of somebody, whether they belong in this tier or that tier, you know what I mean? Okay, so Felix, the kid is a 2-year-old, so I don't know really what to say about Felix other than okay, cool, maybe A tier. It's great. It's great to have a curious and wonderful kid running around. Yeah, so not much to say about that. Okay, so Mignon, I think that's how you say it. Mignon. Probably a candidate for one of my favorite characters here. I think we might do a whole new tier, and we'll put Mignon in SS tier. Um, I don't think that there is a character in a story in a long time that I felt this bad for. Um, and whenever anything happened with Mignon, even if it was somewhat inconsequential, like even if she was just trying to like help out around the house or something, um, I felt like really bad if somebody was like ignoring her or something like that. Like it just seemed like unfair. Uh, Her whole life story and the idea that she finally has like a place to be safe. Like you'd feel really bad if this was taken away, um, and it seems like it will be taken away, and then she dies at the end. Um, by the way, spoil this video will have spoilers for the book. By the way, and so especially like I don't know when she actually died, I didn't feel that bad, but I felt bad when it was first suggested that she was probably going to die. And that made me really sad because I don't know. I feel like this person, deserved better. Once again, a great poet, sang many great songs throughout the novel, and honestly, one of my favorite characters in the book. Same with Philene. I like humor, right? And Philene is she's a funny character. She so maybe even ahead of Mignon, probably is, at this point, my favorite character. She is honest. She's always out for her own gain, and she's rather frivolous, but she owns up to it. She doesn't hide it, and this leads to many interesting scenarios, many antics, and she's always she's always out for her own game, but it never seems malicious. It always seems very playful, almost like a happier version of Jarno, however you say that guy's name. And so yeah, I would say that she gets the SS tier. Just my personal preference. Latris, who's like Philine's friend, who never gets mentioned after the halfway point of the novel, pretty much. He's a cool guy. He's got a cool name, Latris. I think that's how you say it. And yeah, we'll come back to Latris. There's also a few other characters. I don't know if I remember that many characters from like the theater company they had, but there's Melina and Madame Melina, or I'm saying it different. Melina. Yeah, so this husband and wife character who I think appear very early on in the novel, and then Wilhelm helps them a lot, and then he gives them no thanks for it. Yeah, so I don't remember these characters at all. They both get C tier, right? Latris is gonna get A. Maybe I don't know. I like him almost as much as Philene, but once again, he doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. Maybe if he had more screen time, you'd be higher on the list. I also remember another character. What's his name? I'm gonna Google it because I forget. Another major character. What is it? Pero. I'm sorry. Wilhelm Meister characters. Maybe I should have looked at this when I started the list. Ermelia. Yeah. Looks like I missed a lot of characters. Okay, so Serlo. Oh, Norberg. There's Norberg too. Oh well. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Okay, so Serlo. He was a major character for like 5 minutes. Serlo. Yeah, he's gonna get probably A tier. He's developed into a very interesting character, and given how little of the novel is spent on him, I feel like we ended up knowing a fair deal about his life. I think you can say that for a lot of characters there. So Serlo, he's going to get the A tier. Excuse me. So, yeah, I don't really know what to say about this. I don't really care about the fella. But he's got like an interesting attitude. I forget what it was. because there's a lot of characters, and that part of the novel was like, I read it like a week ago. But yeah, so Serlo, he's gonna get the A tier. Yeah, I feel confident about that. Okay, so then there's Werner. I think it's Werner. Okay, cool guy. He's Wilhelm's friend. He's got like a different worldview probably than Wilhelm, probably different than Goethe and many of the readers as well. But he's very well developed. He's a stand-up person. I like the one letter where he basically tells Wilhelm like, "Oh, hey, by the way, I took all your money, your property, married your sister, and all this. I know you're cool with it, I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, cool guy. So I don't know, B tier, A tier. Probably doesn't matter which because the whole video is pointless. But but no, it's not pointless. But the video is good. It's just that the idea of the tier list is really really dumb. Right. Okay, and then Marianne. Okay, so I think that's how you say it, Marianne. Man, poor Marianne. Golly gee, really wish that she didn't get wrongly accused of adultery and then die after childbirth. I think that's probably very sad, and to live in anguish of being regarded as an evil human being and alone, and she had to die alone. Oh yeah, and I guess her like servant lady is a character too. That character can go to B tier. Old lady, I'll call her old lady. That's not her name, but what was I saying? B tier for that one. Okay, Marianne. It's hard to like say very much of a characterization of her because we only really hear about her through Wilhelm's eyes, and he's like unrealistically in love with her and all that, so it doesn't really paint a very vivid picture of the kind of person she was. Although we do get I think a couple of scenes from her perspective. I think just out of sympathy for some of the sad things that happened to her, I think put her at least in like A or S tier, right? Again, it doesn't matter which, so we'll put her in both. Doesn't matter, I could put a character in every tier if I wanted to, Anyway, but you feel bad for her, and I guess there's a bit of a biased narration, through Wilhelm's eyes. She's something else, right? So, yeah, and so the last character is Wilhelm. He's in the title. He's in the book throughout the whole book, pretty much, because he's the main character. And then the question is Wilhelm a good character? And I would say pretty much so. I think, is it Madame Melina who tells him that he's like really humble and he's like a real good guy? And I think pretty much every female character in the book pretty much falls in love with him too, kind of like Lothario. Probably that's just because it's a novel. Probably not because he's actually a good person. But I guess he's not actually a person either. So you just have to go off the novel. Yeah, I don't know really what to say. I liked reading about Wilhelm's story. He seemed to have I don't know. At first, he almost seemed kind of annoying, but I think that was kind of the joke. Of course, there's that scene early on where he's like rambling about his childhood, and this woman Marianne, who's supposed to be like completely in love with him, just completely falls asleep because this guy is just rambling and rambling and rambling. That was funny at his expense. So I don't know if that adds him points. Probably adds Marianne's points because we can sympathize with her for falling asleep through this guy's rant about, what was he even talking about? Puppet shows? Like what? Like learn to read the room, right? When it's time for you to stop talking. Like Jesus. But anyway, I don't know what to say. Probably A tier, S tier, W tier. We could make a new tier. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, so maybe who did he marry in the end? Natalie. Yeah, he can go. He can go, like the Countess and the Count. He can go next to his wife Natalie in S tier. So yeah. So uh, yeah, but bet you're really glad you watched that. I kind of just wanted to dwell, at least in some small way, on this book that I read, so that it didn't just get erased from my mind, given all the other stimulus that we're gonna all, including me, entertain ourselves with after this. Yeah, so I'm pretty proud of the list. I think that the way it's shaped out, it's been pretty fair to all the characters. Probably if Goethe made the list, he'd probably do it the same, or almost, or similar. Yeah, yeah, very good. Thank you for your time.